Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the first news roundup of the brand new Formula One season. As always, I've picked out a few stories that have piqued my interest from the last few days. I'll also go over the times from yesterday's practice sessions and quickly run down 3 shorter stories towards the end of the video. Kicking us off though, perhaps unsurprisingly, is Christian Horner and Red Bull. And Horner has said that he believes that Mercedes are already looking ominous. And that is despite Red Bull getting off to a very good start by topping the times on both Friday morning and Friday afternoon. Now, following FP1 and speaking to Sky Sports F1 Live, the Red Bull boss was playing down his team's chances, perhaps as you might expect. We tend to see that at this stage of the season, don't we? And he is definitely wary of getting too confident, although he is very happy with the overall performance of the RB16B. It is always great to see your car on top of the timesheets, but Mercedes are looking pretty ominous. So we don't take anything for granted. But yeah, we are happy with the performance of the car so far. Horner also believes that the stability of the regulations between last season and this have helped Red Bull as it has allowed them to port over all of the data from last year to focus on resolving the correlation issues they suffered in 2020. He also added, "The whole engineering team has worked incredibly hard over the winter and hopefully we've got a good starting base that we can then build on through the season. It is interesting to see some of our competitors going higher and higher on the rear rake when traditionally they've stayed very low. Hopefully it is something that we can make good use of, and I really hope that we can have a competitive field this year and put a sustained campaign together." Early days, of course, but it is looking good for Red Bull. Meanwhile, though, down at Mercedes, they believe the new regulations for 2021 as well as harder Pirelli tyres have led to the team's alleged tricky start to the season, or at least testing in the first 2 practice sessions we've actually seen. So Toto Wolff told Sky Sports that although he does not think it is all down to the rake of the car, the team's analysis has shown that higher rake concepts have lost less downforce than teams that are running lower rake like Mercedes does. Wolff did say though that the rear of the car was much better now than it was during pre-season testing, so something positive there for Mercedes. And as you'll see shortly with the practice times, although they are a little bit concerned, Mercedes are still very much well in the mix. So, I guess long story short, Horner thinks Mercedes looks stronger than they claim. Wolff reckons the team is still struggling, and if you add into that mix the fact that Lewis Hamilton has already said that he believes Red Bull has the best car at the moment, I think it's pretty safe to say the mind games have well and truly begun. I've missed all this so much, it's so good to have Formula One back. Whilst I'm talking about F1 being back, let's have a quick look at the results from yesterday's practice session, starting obviously with FP1. Max Verstappen did top the morning session with a time of 1:31.394 with 12 laps on the board, and he was just under 3/10 clear of Valtteri Bottas for Mercedes, with Lando Norris in a very good 3rd place. Lewis Hamilton was 4th in the second Mercedes, half a second off Max Verstappen, with Charles Leclerc in 5th and Sergio Perez in 6th. Pierre Gasly was 7th for AlphaTauri, with Carlos Sainz in 8th, Daniel Ricciardo 9th, and Antonio Giovinazzi rounding out the top 10. And yesterday morning, 1.3 seconds, or nearly 1.4 seconds, covered the top 10. And just a quick reminder at this point, don't forget that the first session was not really representative of anything we're going to see in Bahrain because it was run during the day. Kimi Raikkonen was 11th place in the second Alfa Romeo, with Sebastian Vettel in 12th and Lance Stroll 13th for Aston Martin. It must be said though, although they are quite low on the timesheets, it is only practice and they did get some good laps between them, 41 in total. Yuki Tsunoda, who was getting very frustrated with traffic out there, was 14th in the second AlphaTauri. And then we've got the 2 Alpines of Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso, George Russell and Nicholas Latifi in the 2 Williams. And then rounding out the field, perhaps unsurprisingly, it's the 2 Haas boys of Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. And just so you know, all the drivers set their fastest times yesterday morning on the soft tyre. On to FP2, once again, all the drivers set their fastest time on the soft compound. And it was Max Verstappen who did the double by topping the session with a 1:30.847, but he was less than a 10th clear of Lando Norris in 2nd place. Lewis Hamilton was 3rd for Mercedes, just over 2/10 behind Verstappen. And then Carlos Sainz looked very good in the afternoon, 4th place for him for Ferrari, Valtteri Bottas in 5th. And towards the end of the session, he said over the team radio that the car was undrivable. Daniel Ricciardo was 6th for McLaren, Yuki Tsunoda in 7th and Lance Stroll in 8th. And then we've got Pierre Gasly in 9th place for AlphaTauri. 10th was Sergio Perez, 6/10 off his teammate. But according to Sky F1, he did look much closer to Verstappen on race pace. We'll have to wait and see on that one, of course. Esteban Ocon in 11th for Alpine, so a slightly better afternoon for them. Charles Leclerc was 12th for Ferrari, 13th for Antonio Giovinazzi and 14th for Sebastian Vettel, just ahead, a thousandth of a second clear of Fernando Alonso. Kimi Raikkonen was 16th, but he did have a crash towards the very start of the session. He lost the back of his Alfa Romeo, speared it into the wall, damaged his front wing or lost his front wing, and also did give the rear of the car a bit of a whack, but he was able to get back to the pits, and he did get out a little bit later to continue with his programmes. George Russell was 17th for Williams ahead of Mick Schumacher, and then it was Nicholas Latifi in 19th, with Nikita Mazepin again rounding off the field in 20th place. He had a spin as well at turn 5 and complained that the balance was all over the place in that car. So, can we take anything from what we've seen so far? I'll be honest, I really don't like drawing too many conclusions from any practice session, least of all the first 2 of the season. What I will say though is that Red Bull are looking very good, as are McLaren, and the field is potentially closer than it was in 2020, although that was probably to be expected, given that these cars are evolutions of last year's cars, but still, it definitely looks closer. It's not looking good for Haas though, as we kind of predicted, and I'm really hoping for their sake that Alpine and Aston Martin have got a bit more to give in qualifying. We'll see what happens later this afternoon and indeed on Sunday, but if nothing else, this has whet my appetite a treat for the rest of the weekend, and I genuinely do think we could be in for an absolute cracker on Sunday. Next up, talks regarding the proposed sprint qualifying format have still got a way to go, according to Gunther Steiner, who said that details still need to be ironed out. The current sticking point is regarding how much money teams will be allocated to offset any potential damage cars may suffer during the extra races. Now, initially, it was reported that Formula One was willing to cough up an extra $1 million per team. However, according to motorsport.com, teams are actually pushing for triple that figure and want to see an increase to the cost cap as well. It is understood, though, that those proposals do not have the support of all teams. As smaller outfits are concerned, the bigger teams could use that extra funding to improve performance. Despite the question marks over the cash, though, the Haas boss believes the proposals will eventually be agreed, and speaking earlier this week, Steiner said, "There's a few details to be ironed out, but I think we are in a fast-moving world and we just need to adapt to it to stay current. I think we have got enough information now that should it happen, which I think it will, we can get ready, so I don't see a big issue." And that was backed up by Andreas Seidl, who also believes sprint qualifying will go ahead and is confident a solution will be found during the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend, adding that McLaren like the proposals which are on the table and confirm the team would support them. In case you missed it during testing, more details emerged about the sprint qualifying plans, with them taking place at 3 events this year, and they are currently planned for Britain, Italy, Monza and Brazil. Under the plans, we would see a regular qualifying session take place on a Friday afternoon to set the grid for the 100km race on Saturday, the result of which would then form the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix proper. There will be points handed out to the top 3, with 3 points for the winner, 2 for second place and 1 for the driver in third. I mean, look, we'll see how it goes over the course of this weekend, see if they can get it agreed, and hopefully we'll get some sort of official decision either way soon. Moving on, and McLaren won't have a number 1 driver in 2021, according to team boss Andreas Seidl. Just on the off chance you've missed the news, Daniel Ricciardo has joined Lando Norris at McLaren this season to form potentially one of the most exciting driver lineups on the grid. But Seidl believes that having 2 drivers on an equal footing is something that works for the team, and that is why they will be allowed to battle it out this season. And speaking ahead of this weekend's race in Bahrain, he said, "Within the team, we treat both drivers the same. As a team, we make sure we give those guys the same opportunities to do well on track, to battle it out on track. The philosophy we are having within the team, I think that's working well." Seidl also expanded on why the team decided to bring Daniel Ricciardo to the team for 2021, saying that his speed and how he goes racing drew them to him, and he will be a great benchmark for Norris. So no team orders at McLaren, for now at least. And whilst I'm sure that will be the case early doors, if, as unlikely as it may seem, one of them suddenly finds himself in some sort of title fight, I'm pretty sure that would change very quickly. However, I'd be very surprised if that's a concern for 2021. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see McLaren up there fighting for the title, but I can't see it this year. Right then, I've got 3 extra stories to run through super quickly before I go, starting with George Russell, who is confident Williams will score points in 2021, but does not see it happening at this weekend's Bahrain Grand Prix due to the conditions potentially forecast. The Brit, who impressed many with his performances last year, especially during qualifying, believes that this year's Williams has more potential than the 2 he has driven previously, and having just missed out on scoring at a few events last season, he thinks the team can, quote, scrape into the points at some point this year. On the subject of Williams, the team has confirmed that Dan Ticktum will stay on as development driver for 2021. Ticktum initially took on the role last year and impressed the team with his work in the simulator and in helping to develop the car. And Ticktum said he was happy to be carrying on with the team this year and he is looking forward to hopefully getting a bit more time trackside with the team. Of course, Ticktum will be racing this season in F2 with Carlin. And Sebastian Vettel has revealed the name of his new Aston Martin car, and if you were expecting a Bond-themed name, you won't be disappointed. The German has chosen to name his AMR 21 Honey Rider after the character who appeared in the first James Bond film Dr. No, and was of course played by Ursula Andress. So yeah, there you go, I am classing that as news. That is it for this week's roundup though, but I will be back on Sunday with the first race reaction stream of the season. I honestly cannot wait for this one. It is just going to be so nice to actually be able to talk about some on-track action. But in the meantime, if you did enjoy this video, then please do leave a like as it really helps out the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.